Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Card Shop. I'm the big dog. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Mike Fruitman, owner of Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Colorado's best card shop. And we are proud to have our first guest on the show of our tenure, and that is Nate Burns, owner and proprietor of Grand Slam Collectibles and host of one of the best card breaking online shows that's out there called After Hours. So if you haven't seen it, you should take a look. It's the card breaking's great, but the entertainment is at least equal to that. Nate's assembled quite a cast of characters, and the running dialogue is pretty awesome. So I'll give you guys a shot. So Nate, welcome to the Card Shop.
Hey man, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So just to get started, a few questions just to run through, and we'll just riff on some things as we go. I know on your show you've talked about how you got started, but just for the sake of the people who watch this thing, how did you get started in the hobby?
Well, getting started in the hobby, my dad and I were at a gas station back home in Huntington, Tennessee, and we walked in and I saw 84 Fleer cello packs there on the counter, and I'm sure I spent my own money. I'm sure I earned it somewhere, but I remember I got a Carl Yastrzemski 84 Fleer out of it, and when I went home, my older brother, he's 5.5 years older than me, he wanted it, and that was the first thing that he really had ever wanted that was, of mine, because I was 7, he was 12. So right then and there, I knew I was hooked.
Yeah, I was much the same. I think Mike's much the same as well. I think we all got hooked at young ages, and I think we're all seeing the evolution of this, and we're seeing kids that looked a lot like you and I and us now in the shops buying cards, and the hobby's having a cycle, and that's a great thing because I think that means it'll recur and we'll have a nice long life to us. Hey, when you get into the shop and how you started the shop, and obviously this is your second one, you had a smaller space and got you where you are today. How did you make that decision, and what went into the decision of saying, hey, I'm gonna sell out, I'm gonna get into the card business, I'm gonna make this how I make my living?
When I finished up with college, well, almost finished up with college the first time, all I had was a little office on the Court Square here in town, and I was just a little eBay grinder, and I had 2 little showcases, and I grinded. I would go to the Nationals. I was always trying to buy and sell. It was a true grind, and Diana got pregnant with the boys, the twins, and so then it got serious. I had to make some real money, so I just couldn't quite get over that hump, man. It was, just wasn't quite there yet. Didn't have the money to sink into big cards, and that's where the money was at even back then. So shut that down, went and sold vehicles. So for the next 13, 14 years, that dream just sat on the back burner, and I was just trying to slowly climb my way out of the hole I'd put myself in, and
Sure.
Making enough money to raise the kids, and finally kind of got into a spot where I could take another hack at it, and so I did. I mean, it was something that I'd always planned, but finally took the leap, and I'm really glad I did.
Mike, fire away.
Well, no, I think, unfortunately, I didn't meet you. I think, Nate, your first event you attended, was it the Upper Deck? Besides the National, was it the Upper Deck event in Orlando?
As a card shop owner, it was, yeah. It was 2016 Upper Deck convention.
Yeah, I wish I'd met you there, man. I remember, I was going to bed one night, and there was a suggested view for me, and it was you, and I'm like, I do this 10 hours a day, but I'm going to give this a watch. And I remember clicking on it, and I'm in bed. It's like mile 11, and you're okay. So if it's mile 11, I'm Central Time. I'm Mountain Time. Is that your midnight? Your 1?
Yeah, midnight.
So I'm watching you, and I'm used to watching other breakers, not a ton. And then I'm looking there, and then you've got 800 people watching you. And then it turns to 9, and then you get to quad digits, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? What does this guy have? So here he is. I'm watching it, and it's kind of like a hooker going home and watching a porn. You did it all day. You don't need to watch it anymore. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a nonstop thing. And the thing that blew me away, where you lost me, is at one point you took up the camera and you panned it, and you showed all the planes getting ready to land, all the boxes. You still had to break before you went to bedtime. and there was 50 or 60 of them. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'd never seen anything like that before. I mean, I talked to breakers who do 2 breaks a night, 3 breaks a night. Some guys are doing 4 or 5 maybe. But I'm watching you, and it's like all these planes are going to land before he goes home. But he's going until 3 or 4 in the morning. How the heck is this possible? And I remember telling some folks at the Topps convention the next year in Arizona that you didn't attend. I'm like, dude, you guys hear about this Nathan Burns guy? And I'm asking a friend, like, so how many eyeballs is a lot? He's like, well, if you can get 100 people, that's great. If you can get 200, that's incredible. I'm like, what if I told you there's this guy who's popping like 1,000, and I watched him one night eat 2,000, and they're like, they said bull something to me, and I'm thinking, no, this is for real, and that was when I was like, okay, I felt like a scout that found like the best prospect that like the major leagues hadn't heard of. And I'm like, this guy's incredible. You guys got to get dialed into him. I remember explaining you to other folks, not just the eyeballs, but more importantly, your actions and what you did and how you worked with your community. It wasn't all take. It was a lot of give. And man, it was a pleasure. I felt like the scout. I was like, dude, this guy can pitch 104 and he's got a curve, like everything. There's no wrong. So man, I mean, do you just wake up? Do you pinch yourself? Is it still crazy for you?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of become the new normal now. Back then, you're, as you know, it's almost like you, as a small card shop owner, every deal is a big deal to you. You're trying to eat. You're trying to pay for your kids' shoes and keep the rent paid and add to your store. And I mean, so when that first really started happening, it was just like, a dream come true. It wasn't even anything I had dreamed. So, I've pretty much been living that dream from that point forward. I wake up 6 in the morning or earlier every day, haven't ever set an alarm, because I really do enjoy what I do. There's very little that I don't enjoy about owning a store, meeting new people, collectors, investors, all of them. I really do have a passion for the sports card part of it. So, even rolling in today to work, I was happy to hop on here with you guys, because I really do I really do love sports cards. It's one of those things that it's literally a part of who I am. It's in my DNA. So, Saturday, I'm excited to answer your question. Some of it has become more normal, but I mean, I'm afraid sometimes when I'm laying in bed, I'm afraid I'm going to wake up and it's the first day my store is open and this was all a dream. And I've got to start all over again, which if I did, me, I'd figure it out.
Yeah, you'd figure it out.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, it still blows me away, the kindness that we've run across. And I think some of that was by design. Some of that wasn't luck as far as the community that we have. I always talk about dropping that bottom 10%, and a lot of older card shop guys, not necessarily Mike, but they just don't want to give up that 10% on the bottom line. And I just feel like it adds a lot more. It doesn't subtract 10%. It adds probably 50 or 60%, but it's tough, when you're used to scratching and clawing to make a living, and somebody saying, hey, drop 10% of your actually, paying customers. It sounds crazy, but I do feel like if you really look at our feeds now, I mean, we might kick 1 or 2 off in a night. Yeah. And it used to be hundreds in a night. So
yeah. So just a little background for how Nate and I are connected. So I've been a frequenter of Mike's shop for a lot, and Mike and I have a mutual friend that was in one night with me, and he goes, hey man, you should go check out Grand Slam. Their after hour show, you would get hooked on that pretty quick. And I was like, yeah, okay. I kind of blew people off when they would put their recommendations. But then Mike literally said, hey man, he's a good dude. He's a guy that you could get involved with. So I think, thanks to those conversations, I became one of Nate's bigger customers and drove the party to another level. And I think much respect and appreciation for the show. It is addictive. It is card porn. I think guys get pissed off on there because the big dog's at the front of the line a lot. And, I think that's life in the jungle. But I think you get a lot of audience, and the number of people I see on your little chats at the bottom of the show that are saying, hey man, this is my first purchase, but they've been watching for a year. I mean, it's incredible. And it's like, you know, that they were scrapping together $1 a paycheck or something to get that first purchase just so they could see their cards busted by the great Nate. And that stuff is just, it's incredible to see. And these guys are just living this dream through this that, you know, they all had when they were little kids like we were when we got hooked into the hobby. So I think it's enjoyable. I appreciate you doing that, Nate. It's a fun show. You know, I think we're headed towards a renaissance in the card industry. You know, the last dance for all of us, you know, there's this thing called back in the day, right? And you'll sit around and like the barbershop and argue over who was the best back in the day. And the last dance is showing people Michael Jordan is the best that didn't see him. And I think card collecting today, we're all having our back in the day renaissance around the hobby. And that's awesome to see, you know, when we grew up, this is how the energy was. And this is like every Friday you'd go to the grocery store and you get that end cap and get you your pack and you'd get excited. And I think we're seeing people get excited like that now. It's awesome to see because people are starting to understand what we all were excited about when we were kids.
Yep. So true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. So if you had, you know, when you look at the industry, obviously there's with the amount of eyes and demand on it. You know, I know Vegas Dave just sold his Mike Trout the other day for what was purported to be $900,000. We'll let that sort itself out, but he sold it for a lot of friggin' money. And you know, God love him. He got it done. We can hate his hype, but he delivered on the goods allegedly on that auction. So, you know, when you look at the industry, you know, one of the things I see is, you know, we're pricing a lot of people out at the bottom end, and it hurts me because, you know, that little kid who can't buy that $1 pack now because it's $5 is the kid that won't be buying $100 packs when he's 40 because he never got that $1 pack now. And I'm curious what you think we can do about that, or what can we do about that to kind of keep those kids cemented and in the industry. And I know Mike has some thoughts on that as well.
I mean, you can do, there's quite a few things that, you know, card shop owners can do. It's the card shop, at the end of the day, it's the card shop owner's responsibility to plant some seeds. And, you know, the way to do that is you create a collectors club for kids, a monthly collectors club. You can do that. We do it where it ships out daily if they order it. I know Mike has a huge kids program that I'm sure he can tell you about. I think that's one thing. I think another thing that's really big for me personally is when I used to go into card shops in the 80s, you know, they didn't really want some little punk kid in there bugging them all day. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't ever remember. I mean, I frequented hundreds of card shops in my life. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. Everywhere I went from about 7 or 8 years old, you know, pretty much for the last 30 years, I've been in a card shop wherever I go. To a big city or where they have one. And I don't ever remember any of them giving me anything other than maybe a top loader. I mean, I would hit massive cards sometimes when I was spending money. And I don't even remember getting a magnetic. So I think, you know, we're in a time where just the honest truth is the card shop owners making more money than they had made in the past. So it's our responsibility when we do that to use some of that money to promote the hobby, whether that's with adults or kids. And I think the way to do that is give something to kids, give something to adults, and without expectation of anything in return. I really believe that's the best investment we can make to keep these, you know, kids interested or adults interested. Nobody wants to feel like they're getting skinned all the time. So all I did was I feel like I'm an average guy. I was an average customer. So what would I like when I go into a card shop? What I would like is what the average guy is going to like. And then I do that.
That's awesome.
We get a lot of kids who come in. We get a lot of Saturday morning kids, at least we used to when they were playing games. And they'd always be in uniform. You know, they're playing baseball this season. They're playing football the other season. And I always made a point of engaging them. And I never say, did you win? Did you lose? And I'm always like, did you have fun? Because, you know, if you had a bad day, it's like, you know, and the trip to the card shop was the reward. Like, how cool is that? Like, we own the place that if you score a touchdown, if you win, you get to go to. I remember for me, it used to be the ice cream place. But, like, here it is. Like, we get to be that place. So I'm always asking, like, hey, did you have fun? Because if you had a bad game or if you lost, like, you know, they don't want to necessarily talk about that. But there's always some other that they could always find. And bringing up what Nate says, Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a kids club. We've got about 350 kids in there. We're looking forward to expanding that. The last 2 months, we really haven't had anybody in the shop. So it's weird seeing that number become stagnant, but I completely agree also beyond that. When a kid gets a card, they already know they're going to get a free magnetic case for it. They can just walk over and grab it. And the kids are like, some of the new kids are still shocked. They're like, well, it's $2, right? I'm like, no, you got a good card. I want to make sure that it stays in good shape and you can show it off. Don't take it to school, but make sure that you're showing it off and, make sure it goes away every night. But absolutely. And, it really goes a long way with parents when you're treating those kids like young adults. When those kids are bothering you, no, I mean, I don't want to take my kid to a place where they're annoying. I mean, I want to take them to a place where they're welcomed and invited and really treated well, like young adults.
Yeah. So kids are the future, and this cycle is interesting because I got hooked back in when I sat in Mike's shop and saw all the guys that looked a little bit like me with their 10-year-old kids in the shop and said, okay, the cycle's going to come back, and there's something there. So if you accumulate some pretty good product and assets, those kids will be the ones buying them in 30 years, and all of a sudden you got something you can live with, and it's going to be hot. But prices are going crazy, and it's I've never seen anything like it. I know you guys have been in it way more deeply than I have. You guys haven't seen anything like it. I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars for a case of Prism basketball. I mean, that's unbelievable. And there's 100 cards in that case that'll be worth anything, and people are still chasing it. So if you look at it, and Nate, when you look at the industry, there's a lot of good that's going on. I mean, I got you and I got Mike and others that, they give back to the community and take care of things. But if there was something about the industry you could change or alter or clean up, what would it be?
I mean, we just have such an influx of new collectors in the industry right now. I mean, they're flooding in, and they're not educated yet.
Right.
So I do see a lot of, what I call dining room breakers that are, they're taking a Leaf full-size helmet, doing a six division break where the helmet's essentially, $800 or $900. And I mean, to me, that's theft. That's taking advantage of someone who doesn't know any better. We're not talking about, hey, if Bowman is $650 a box retail, that's what it is. But Leaf helmets can't be had for $800 or $900. So, I do wish we would, new breakers would find or new customers would find their way to. There's dozens and dozens of good card shops and good breakers across the country that treat people fairly. And I mean, that's what I would love to change, is where people are just getting a bad taste in their mouth because, they're spending $150 on a division when I can just about get them a Leaf helmet for $150. So
we need a better breakers business bureau.
Like a
little stamp of approval at the corner of your screen. It says, we're legit. The boys have checked me out. I'm good.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
One of the things I've seen lately, it's if you've seen the movie Jaws, I remember the scene where they put the bounty on the shark, and every single person in big boats, small boats, schooners are all going out there. They're like, man, I'm going to get this shark. I'm going to get the $10,000, whatever it was. And they're all going out there. Guys had dynamite. They didn't know what they were doing, whatever. And I'm starting to have that feeling with some collectors where they're seeing the Gary Vee thing. There's another guy I watch on YouTube. I'll actually watch him, and he's a great investor guy. And you can join his system and whatever. But he gives out some great advice. And we're getting a lot of folks in the hobby. And what I'm concerned about is, whether we have a repeat of the 80s where it's like, everybody's got to do this. And then like one day, everybody's like, yeah, you know what? We don't have to do this. And I'm making sure that when I get a collector in like that, and you can always tell, it's like, hey, do you have any Jordan inserts? And where do I get card saver 2s or the grading card savers? And it's like, oh boy, okay. So what are you doing? What's your thing? What are you getting into? Why are you doing this? Oh man, I'm going to buy some 90-91 Fleer. I'm going to get 3 Jordans in my $59 box. I'm going to send them all in. They're going to be worth $120. I'm like, okay, that's a great idea, but let's talk about this first. And I'm making a point of getting all those guys dialed up and saying, hey, you're not going to catch that shark all the time. It's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. There's a lot of work that goes with this. And if it's this easy, it's not necessarily for everybody. So one of the things I'm making sure I'm doing is I'm not steering them a certain way, but I feel like the psychologists, where I'm asking them the questions, they understand what they're doing to themselves and why they're doing it. And hopefully those folks remember in a year now when they're kind of wavering, like, hey man, let's come back, let's get some more ideas. And this guy didn't say, hey, buy that $1,300 Prism box. He was like, okay, so what's the right thing for you? So I'm guessing we're seeing other stores do that as well. So at least I hope so.
Yeah, it's like taking a wheelbarrow to play the quarter slots. If you take that wheelbarrow in every time, you're going to leave with it empty a lot. And the one time you'll have it full, it wasn't worth all the trips where you had that wheelbarrow by your side and you couldn't do anything with it. So I think people have to understand that. Obviously, I do a lot of stats and I analyze a lot of breakers to see what the value is in the yields that are coming out of card boxes. But all this, if the emperor has no clothes, we're liable to not like what happens in a few years. But I don't necessarily believe that's a thing. That's a fleeting thing, and the value is going to be in the scarcity and the stuff like it's always been. I think people there's a lot of money coming in right now for a lot of reasons, and this pandemic did exactly what everybody we thought would happen, Mike, Nate. But there'll be a little bit of a lighten up, I'm sure, when sports comes back, but not until after the euphoria of seeing players that you have cards of that you just accumulated start performing. So, obviously, Nate, you care about Zion a little bit like I do, and if he does well, we're all going to like it. And Luka needs to get his ass back from Europe and start working out with the Mavs. So, hey, so a question for you, Nate. You've got on the show, you've got a cast of characters. You got Joe, you got Rook, you got Gary. Give us a little flavor. Just how did the call lines, and obviously we know with the donkey, we know his one-on-one. How did all those phrases that they all have come about?
Just naturally.
Awesome.
Yeah, we didn't come up with any of that I recall, but
right.
Even the Ric Flair video to the very beginning, I think that was Joe was a customer and suggested that. So,
Interesting.
I mean, it's just a guy, I'm sure Nut Dragger was spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I just said, man, he's damn dragging his nuts or something. And then, some stick, some don't, but it's all natural.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the advice I would give to anybody who's watching this that wants to do what we do is, be human, be natural. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be Mike.
Right.
Try to be yourself. If that's not enough, hire somebody that can be natural and be a character. This doesn't go without, cost. Carrying on like that takes its toll. I'm not gonna be able to do that when I'm 65.
Yeah, I think that bottle of Jack Daniels might not get emptied as fast at that age. So, hey, just when you talk about this though, you've mentioned a few times, hey, if you have a good enough 2020, you might mic drop, all that fun stuff. What's going to keep you going? What's going to keep you going in the biz? And if that would happen in the next couple of years, what are you going to do after that?
I mean, I didn't even make my goal last year. I mean, end of 2019, I wasn't really happy with what we did. I mean, it was more than 18, but even just talking about it makes me uncomfortable. But I didn't reach my goal. 2020, I feel like, I mean, we're probably going to make it. We're going to have to work hard, but we're about halfway there. We're going to probably make it. And I mean, really all I'm going to do is when we make that goal, I'll enjoy it. I'll probably take a vacation for a week, and then I'm coming back. And then I think like the next step is to come after the biggest guys in the industry. And no disrespect to them, they're the big dogs for a reason. Yeah. They're on an island with 3 of them, and the rest of us are on the shore. Sure. And some of us are going to have the balls to try to swim out there, and some won't. But to answer your question, what keeps me going is I've never been satisfied with what I've done to this point. We'll probably get our goal in 2020. At the end of 2020, we're going to take that last leap. And then, if we do whether we catch them or not, it doesn't really matter. In the end, it just pushed me farther than I would have ever went not chasing them. Sometimes I feel like those guys, you have to do certain things in this industry to be at the top. And maybe I'm not capable of doing those things, and that's okay. But if you do your best, at the end of the day, it's going to just be like Kobe when he retired. Hey, Kobe realized that MJ was better, but Jordan made Kobe who he was And I mean, 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th on the list isn't too shabby, but we're going to find out one way or the other.
Yeah,
Whether
that's
people
awesome.
like it or not, I'm coming. So
Well,
we'll
just don't show up at the VIP event for Panini with 57 wristbands on, showing everybody how big your dick is, and then we'll all be better off for that. So, you know, you can be big in the industry without being big like that. That's just how it rolls, I guess.
That guy is literally the most. He is. I tip my cap to him.
Yeah,
I've gotten to know him a little bit, and he is. When it comes to dollars and cents, he is the absolute best in this industry. Period. And it's one of those things that I guess it's kind of what your measuring stick is on who's the best. But I give him such. I had no idea he was as intelligent as he was. He is very, very intelligent.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I haven't met him a couple times now. He holds his cards close with people he doesn't know. And I think that's probably the best thing to do. And I respect people who drive towards the goal line and go get it. And, you know, it is the chase. It's not the attainment. It's the chase. And, you know, Kobe ain't number 1 on the list, but by God, he's on the list. And making that list is the game. That's the game.
Yep, that's true.
You know, just to hit to you on a personal level on ownership, et cetera. So, you know, you've had a lot of cards in your personal collection. You've had a lot of memorabilia in your personal collection. And I know from time to time when the market's right, that personal collection gets a little lighter because it's worth it to go move something. So if you moved everything in your PC because it was all worth as much as it could be, what would be the last thing that would leave or that you would retain because you ain't getting rid of it?
I've got a Michael Jordan PSA 4 that probably 8 or 9 years ago, when I was always buying and selling sports cards, I was buying Jordans, and I was always having to sell them to pay the rent, the mortgage, or car payments, whatever it was. So one Christmas, my dad bought me a PSA 4. We knew that if it was a Christmas gift, I'd never sell it, so I would always have a Jordan rookie. Well, when the store opened, I mean, I was literally just scraping by, so I went to him and was like, hey, can I put this in the showcase? Hey, he said, do whatever you need to do. I want you to I want you to chase your dream down. So very first day I was open, it sold. I can remember ringing it up on the register. I still have that feeling. It's one of those things that, you know, I regretted, but as we built up, I knew the guy who bought it, and I called him up and was like, hey, if you'll come down here, I've got a PSA 5 that I'll trade you for the PSA 4. And he came running in here with his fucking Nikes on him. So I got it back. It's up there in my personal showcase. There's nothing. There's no matter what, I won't sell that card just because I can remember that feeling when I did. And it's one of those things that not doing it. So that's the card. Yeah.
Yep. And I got, you know, Nate, thanks to you, I have a 67 mantle that I bought from you. And the reason I bought it is because there was a picture of me as a baby, and it was in the room where I was a baby. It was next to my crib. So it had to be my dad's, and I wanted that card. And so you had that card, and it flashed. I was like, I'm getting that card. That's my card. I got to have that card. So, you know, that kind of stuff. Those are the reasons that people keep cards. And that's the reason that I believe this hobby is going to be around forever. Hopefully there's more than one card for folks. So Mike, I don't know if you have something that you're never going to get rid of. Is it a POG from when the industry went to hell, or?
For me, I had the same kind of experience. The Topps Archives had a Buck O'Neil card, and it was an autographed card. I picked it up, and I've got some cards that I used to have like a wall of like cool stuff, like a Hulk Hogan card, guys who really mean something to me. Joey Chestnut, don't laugh. I like Joey Chestnut. Kobayashi. I like my 4th of July guys. So I had it on there, and this guy had to have it. So I'm like, great, let me take care of you. And so I sold the Buck O'Neil card. It looks like a 62 Topps with the autograph. And I sold it, and the rest of the day I'm thinking, why did I do that? It was on my wall. So I had to, like, that night I had to go spend $10 more on the same card on eBay just to do it. And it was a good learning experience for me. Most importantly, I took care of a collector. So he left the store with what he wanted. He had that good experience. And for $10, I'll do that every single day. But it was a learning experience for me. It's something a little bit different. My first pack I ever had opened up was a 1978 Topps, and I got a Pete Rose card. And that card, he's sitting on the bench. He's not doing anything. It's maybe the worst Pete Rose card out there. He literally looks like he's at the end of the career and he can't get in the game.
Yeah.
For me, that's always been like a really important card. So there's this guy who comes by the store, and what he does is he'll buy a ton of cards from one set. And I'm like, what are you doing finally? So he makes art with cards. So he cuts them up and he turns them into a card. So he's made Elway rookies, and he'll take like all sorts of different cards, mince them all together, and it's beautiful stuff. You look from afar, you don't appreciate it, then you get really close and you see it. So I commissioned him to make a 1978 Topps Pete Rose card. He's got a lot of gray that he's gonna have to find for that jersey. But for me, like, I'm gonna hang that up. And the card, really, it's not an insignificant card, but looking at that card, it reminds me of why people have a passion for this industry.
Yeah.
Why somebody comes in, like if somebody comes in, they're buying a Mike Trout card right now. They may like Mike Trout, but they're buying it for $3,000 to sell it for $5,000 in a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it takes to populate that. But looking at that Pete Rose card, it's a constant reminder to me why people collect. It's not, yeah, for some people it's the wallet, but for a lot of people it's the heart. And there's that memory and there's that association. We don't sell cards. We sell an opportunity for people to get back to their childhood, a connection to that. And if we only sold cards, I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, but it's so much easier to leave this when 5,000 doesn't turn into 6 or 7 the next week or the next month. Then you can leave this thing. Something else is going to deliver better for you at some point. Not now, but sometime it will. But when you've got heart and you've got connection to it, that's when you've got a stronger relationship with your collectors. And for me, that's important to make sure when a kid comes in here and they want to buy a box of cards, it's like, so what do you want? Why are you collecting? What's your core thing? For a bunch of years it was Odell. Now it's Mahomes. So I mean, I want to know why you want to collect, not just make that sale. You can get that box at Target. You can get that box at Walmart. But Target doesn't care why you're buying that box. I do. So for me, it's about finding that core reason and getting to why somebody's collecting, not just going, great, $20, awesome, thanks so much, next. So that's a big priority for me. And that P. Rose card, when I hang it up on my wall, people are going to be like, why'd you choose that card? And it's a great opportunity for me to share why I've got that love, why I've got that moment, essentially my PSA for Jordan, because I got a connection to it.
But damn it, you still have to sell to degenerates like me, both of you. So, hey, so just as a side here, and we're going to wrap up here in the next couple minutes, but I know one claim both of you have to fame, and as I jokingly say, Mike's the OG, and Nate's one of the up and comers that's showing Mike a new way of doing business. I think some of Mike's singles nights have evolved out of what he's seen from Nate and others on their sites, and it's been great for him. But you guys are both famous because you're both on Sports Card Radio's Most Wanted. And so, I feel like it's kind of unfair for there to be a one-way forum. And, they have a different mojo than what we do here. And I mean, Nate's show, Mike, what you do, you guys sell the positivity, and they feel like a little bit like a group of folks who are just, I know it doesn't exist, but it feels like they have a big short on the industry, and somehow they're trying to sell their short. And I'm curious what you guys think just of that model, and what do you think that contributes to the industry and the hobby?
Me personally, I think part of it, obviously with that guy, part of it's probably not being mentally well. The other part is probably jealousy of people like Mike. Yeah. I mean, if we're going to be honest, the problem with him, if he watches this, is he goes around and he tells lies about a lot of us. And if he keeps telling lies about us, we might start telling the truth about him. And he doesn't want to go down that road, because there's a lot of failure down that road, and it's a lot of jealousy. When you look at that list, and some of the guys on that list, they're some of the nicest guys in the industry, and he takes, the truth and he twists it. Yeah. And then, he goes live, rents a valuable car, tells everybody how rich he is, and how, even people that watch his videos, how stupid they are, and how superior he is. And let's get this real clear. He's not superior to me or Mike or anybody who has an open card shop right now. Yep. So probably what he needs to do, instead of putting down someone like Fruitman, is take notes, maybe take another crack at it like I did, and stop being a loser and telling everybody that they're the loser.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's kind of
I feel like that too. When you read the bio and it says had a card shop but couldn't make it through 08, I look at my co-host here, and somehow he made it through 08. So apparently it's possible. Apparently you just didn't want it bad enough or something like that. I look at what you're doing, Nate. Nothing, the bangers are making money because the bangers know what they're doing and they know how to do the work. So it feels like somebody who's angry on the outside looking in a little bit, trying to bust balls because they couldn't make it and trying to give reasons why everyone else couldn't. You know,
Well, yeah,
Mike posted it. Yeah, go ahead.
well, there's a couple things there. I can remember a year ago or so, people sent me a video of him telling everybody they were stupid for investing in Luka Doncic basketball cards, and anybody who invested in sports cards was essentially a moron who didn't buy Amazon stock, his one share of it, or Luka Doncic cards. And I look back on that, and if you really go back and watch that video, Luka Doncic treasure cards have probably quadrupled since that guy said that. So, I mean, really and truly, his opinion, you might want to think twice. I'm sure Amazon stock might be at its all-time high, but it's probably went up about 10% in that time, where you could have got 4X. And, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Going talking about those guys, one of the biggest issues I have isn't what they do, it's what they could be doing. The hobby doesn't have a watchdog. There's nobody out there who, I mean, if you're a shop and you say boo about a manufacturer right now or a distributor, you're not necessarily doing yourself a best interest. There's a lot of positivity right now. There's a lot of great things going on. There's some things that obviously could be better. So what's unfortunate is the hobby doesn't have a quote unquote reliable watchdog. The guys who've got shows out there can't go out there and say, hey, look at all these horrible things. They can't talk about autograph issues and some of the things that could be better. But there's nobody really calling it out there. There used to be a guy named Bob Brill, and Bob had the Brill Report. Bob had a shop, shut it down, but he kept it going. And he was just often like, here's how the hobby is. This is the straight line, but here's the straight truth. And he wasn't bought by anybody. He wasn't owned by anybody. He wasn't rented by anybody. And he could freely speak. So the hobby, unfortunately, doesn't have anybody who does that. I mean, if I go out there and I start extolling the horrible things that are being done with a bias and turn a 5 problem into a 10 problem, I'm going to get nuked. And there's a lot of opportunities that just won't come to me, that won't come to my collectors, because I won't have certain brands in my store. And you can't just not carry football. You can't just not carry basketball because you're carrying the flag for that. I'd like to do it. I've done it in the past. It didn't work very well for me. But at this point, it'd be great if those guys could point out things, but do it in such a manner where it resonated and it wasn't from all the way, where you're not just Fox News or you're not just CNN, where you're all the way out there. It'd be nice if there was somebody who could deliver that factually with less of a bias and put it out there for people to digest themselves. So that's my biggest regret, is that when they say something, if Fox says something about this president or this presidential candidate, it doesn't get heard, it just gets said. And if CNN says the same thing the other way, it doesn't resonate. No change is coming from that. It just infuriates the people who are angry, and it just makes the other folks just not want to listen. So it'd be great if those guys could turn it around and turn it into something where they could be a quote unquote reliable news source. I don't think it's going to happen because, hey, Howard Stern gets more people who listen to Howard Stern in the old days who used to hate him than liked him. So I get it. That's their clicks. That's where their money's made. It's unfortunate that it isn't better, but until somebody else steps up, I guess, they're going to keep doing what works for them.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have. Like in the stock market, there are people who are called shorts. There are people who go out when Amazon's at an all-time high. They're selling Amazon, hoping to buy it a month from now for less, and they're going to talk all kinds of shit about Amazon to try to drive it the other way. And shorts in the stock industry, they keep companies honest, because people are, the negativists kind of keep you driving, right? The bottom 10 makes you drive hard. These guys, that's the part that bothers me the most, is they could be productive with what they're doing, and they could like hold people to truly account. They blend in this most wanted list. There's just enough real scumbags on there that when they put all these other people on there, it drags them down with them. And it's just like, that's not productive. It's not, it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? If you got 3 assholes in the room, you can't call 8 people an asshole. Call the 3 people that are assholes. It's what's your purpose? And I think there's an opportunity there. I hope they listen to this, and I hope they think about that opportunity. I think it's there. They don't have a bias. They're out. They're out of the industry. They're sitting on the sideline throwing rocks at people. And I don't mind them throwing rocks, but do it in a way that's productive. I mean, you guys have hit on that the right way. So, well, we just gave them their 5 minutes. So Nate, just to wrap up here, one thing I do not want to lose out on is, most of my business has gone through two people, and that's the two people on this show with me. One of the things you both have in common is you guys both care about community. And it's an important thing for me that I don't invest in people unless they invest in other people. And you guys both do that. And I want to express my gratitude to both of you for what you do for the various things you're committed to. And one thing I wanted to do is give you a chance to talk about where you're committed and the things in the community that matter most to you, just so we can let people have a chance to hear about that and potentially go out and click on something and, go support people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for all of us, just to invest in people. Typically, every day, good and evil battle, and it's light versus dark, and you got to choose what side you're on. And I mean, nobody's perfect, but I feel like you need to pick things that are important to you that you have passion about. If it's St. Jude, or if it's your school back home. If it's homeless people in your town, whatever it is, mainly whatever you're passionate about, I think I don't really call it an investment. I just feel like it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And that's just the way Omar raised me. And I think it's important. It shows people that perceive you to be successful that, it's not all about the almighty buck. You do care about where you came from and people that could catch a break. So, I mean, that's just part of who I am. It's not, I don't really even think about that anymore. It's just, I just enjoy doing that. I think that it's so much, you can do very small things. You don't have to spend a lot of money to shine some light. And I think right now, more than ever, the world could use a little bit of positivity and light.
Absolutely. I think that's right. So, I want to give you, what's funny is there's a show on YouTube called Hot Ones where they get these celebrities on the show and they eat 7 or 8 progressively hotter chicken wings or whatever it is. And the payoff, if you finish, is they give you like a 2-minute spot to promote whatever the hell you want. So, as kind of the gift for dealing with Mike and I's happy asses for this show, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just let us know what's going on and what you want to share about people, community, whatever you want to share about. Yeah, I mean, really,
The two things that I'd probably want to talk about is one, the Pat Tillman Foundation. He's somebody that, I try to be like in certain ways. I'll never live up to who he was, but it's something that we get behind and I think is important. They help soldiers with college educations, or, if they've had injuries that they need extra money to be paid for. I think the Pat Tillman Foundation is, if I had 2 minutes, that would be one of them. Obviously, the other, St. Jude Hospital, since I was a little kid. There's never been a dime that we've given as a group to St. Jude that I regretted. If you can't get behind St. Jude, something's up. But instead of spending 2 minutes talking about a Facebook show or, I don't need to do any of that. I'd rather just talk about the Pat Tillman Foundation and St. Jude Hospital, because that's what's important to me.
Amen. And especially on, this weekend and this week, this holiday on Monday is about people who really gave up their lives. So our 3 happy asses can sit on a Zoom and talk about a freaking cardboard card industry that we love and cherish. And, Pat Tillman's Foundation is about those that sacrificed but made it through and given them an opportunity. And I think it's important that we remember those folks. Their day comes later, at a different day, but they're all important to us. So I appreciate what you've done. Obviously, it hits with me, and I do what I can with you guys too with St. Jude, and it's an important charity, important foundation for a lot of people to take care of kids, because they are the future. They're the future of keeping all us well fed and taking care of them. We're old and can't take care of ourselves. So I appreciate you selecting those. Mike, any last words before I wrap up?
Nate, I just want most pressing question. Have you changed things from jet flying to vet driving yet? Have we have an official change? Are we going to revamp the whole intro or what now?
No, man, no comment, no personal.
No personal.
You know what? It's fun. This is a fun time. I've always wanted a 64 Mustang. It's not the fastest car, 289 V6. I want that. And I'm actually letting myself at least ponder getting one. I've worked every single day outside of 4 hours, 5 hours on my anniversary since the COVID started. And my collectors have stepped up in a way that I didn't expect. I didn't see this coming. We've been open 328 months. In April, a month where all but 7 days, nobody could come to my door and they couldn't come inside. All but 7 days, we had our best month ever. And yes, there's a dollar association with that. But for me, more importantly, I've felt, and I know you have as well, breakers, shop owners, we've been there for our collectors like we've never been there for before. And they've been in there for us incredibly well. I'm getting folks who are thanking me for providing entertainment, something for them to do along the lines of The Last Dance. And obviously the production values are not quite as good as ESPN's, but we're getting folks who are thanking us for almost keeping them going. And it's a crazy time. So I'm going to be looking for ways that I can give back and do more. And that's inspired by you, by the way, Nate. You showed me that it's great to take, but it's better to give. And what you've shown me in your ability to do it, and you're prioritizing that, has really been inspiring for me. So the giving that you do, I just want to let you know that it's kind of like the coaching tree where it spreads out and other people learn from it. So thank you for that. So when I have a great month like that, it's my next focus is to find something where I can do something for others, and that came from you. So thank you for that.
Well, then follow my lead and buy that. Follow my lead and buy that Mustang, man. I'm telling you. Oh my God.
Hey, look, it's just a four-wheeled baseball card that you grew up and wanted, right? It's your PSA 4 Jordan. It's just got 4 wheels. You can drive it around, and it feels good to have it. All right, well,
boys.
Nate, I appreciate you being on the show. If you don't know, check out Nate's Grand Slam After Hours. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for sure. Every now and then there's a rando that will pop up during the day. It will be worth your time. So, Nate, thank you. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and thank you for being on the show with us.
All right, man. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe out there.
All right. Thank you all.
All right.